All right, and welcome back. A very special Bayou time. I'm Martin Falls, and joining us now, of course, you know her by now, Terrebonne Parish Council Chair Jessica Domangue, now running for state rep, and it's down to Jessica and Dirk Guidry in that race for state rep. And Jessica, good to see you. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see you too, Martin.
All right, so yeah, a lot of people know you now. So there's nothing that I can really ask you that would sort of enhance that. But just let's start off by just telling me, how's the campaign? You've been walking quite a bit. The parish gets really big when you go from council to a parish-wide seat, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Martin. I mean, we're walking from Pontiac to Dulac to Dularge to Chauvin to Lisa Park. It's just such a huge area, but we've enjoyed it so much. We've had such a great time meeting the people of Terrebonne Parish, meeting the people of District 53. It's been a very humbling experience.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, I'm trying to, in 21 minutes to let people get a pretty good idea of who you are. Your resume's pretty good. You know, as you look over your resume, Terrebonne Parish Council Chairwoman, resident 23 years. We'll go into some of these other things. But talk about a little bit about your husband and your kids. And one thing that really stuck out to me in this is that Child and Youth Trafficking Advisory Board, because I've done some shows on that, and a lot of people really don't know that we have a problem with that. We have a problem nationwide with that. But let's just start off in general. Your husband, your children.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a resident, 23 years, almost my entire life has been spent here in Terrebonne Parish. I'm married to Chris Domangue, and we have two beautiful daughters, Adelaide and Liliana. They're 9 and 11. They are my reason why I do absolutely everything, Martin, and the reason why I'm running for this office, because I want to make not only Terrebonne a better place, but I want to make the state of Louisiana a better place for our children. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have a bachelor's degree from Nicholls State University, and I have a master's degree in social work from LSU. I currently am a licensed clinical social worker working at Stark Community Health Center, and so I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of people and families across Terrebonne Parish, and so I understand the complex needs that families and individuals have and that they face in a day-to-day basis. And having that expertise, I'm the only person in this race that has the clinical background and has the expertise to be able to go to Baton Rouge and really advocate for everyone's nees.
And I guess you could add you have a master's degree in politics now.
Yeah. Well, you know, Martin, I guess I do have somewhat of a master's degree in politics, but I still have a lot to learn. You know as well as I do. I've been here for 4 years. I ran 4 years ago because I wanted to make a difference in our community. I saw we had a lot of problems. I live in the downtown area, and at that time, the downtown area was really a forgotten area. We had poor drainage. We had poor infrastructure. Our streets were deplorable. I represent areas of the east side to downtown to Lisa Park, and it did seem as though this area was really forgotten. And we have put in so much work in downtown, and I think that speaks to leadership. The amount of projects we've been able to do, from drainage to infrastructure, over $1 million worth of road panels have went into just our area in District 5. You've seen the progress we've made in our downtown area. We've had millions of dollars worth of drainage projects done, including the Goes Avenue pump station. And we have more coming, too. There's more that's in engineering that will be hopefully followed up and completed next term. But we have worked tirelessly for the area that I represent, the small area I represent, District 5. And I just want to bring that work ethic to all of District 53 and be able to move that entire area into a better direction.
New governor coming in,
Yes.
Jeff Landry wins it in the first. How do you feel like some of the qualities you have, how do you feel like they would mesh well with the governor-elect? And what are some of the things, if y'all had a closed-door meeting today, what's some of the things you would talk to him about?
Well, the governor and I have a very good working relationship. I've met the governor several times. I am the only endorsed candidate in this race. I'm endorsed by the Republican Party, the state Republican Party. I'm endorsed by our local Republican Party. I'm also endorsed by almost every conservative organization in the state of Louisiana, which means a lot, Martin. And it means a lot to Republicans and it means a lot to conservatives that you have someone that goes to Baton Rouge with your values. So I'll be able to work very well with Jeff Landry, but I'll also be able to bring a new voice and bring a fresh perspective. And if I had a closed door meeting with Jeff Landry today, I would talk to him about our mental health crisis. I would talk to him about our opioid crisis. I would talk to him about the struggles of our fishermen. I would talk to him about our need for disaster preparedness in the state of Louisiana, because you and I both know that the disaster master plan that the state of Louisiana has did not quite work during Hurricane Ida. And so I think that just bringing all of those pieces to the floor is so important, and having that experience on the council and and having this experience as a social worker makes me unique in the fact that I will be able to bring those different perspectives.
I'm glad you brought up opioids, because when we come back from the break, let's talk a little bit about that, because as you know, Terrebonne's had a problem. Not only Terrebonne, I mean, it's everywhere really in the nation, but with your background, I'm curious to know, as maybe you have some ideas you could bring to a state level. So we'll take a short break right here on Bayou Time. More with state rep candidate Jessica Domangue. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. And welcome back. I'm Martin False with our council chairwoman, Jessica Domangue, who's running for State Rep District 53. And we're going to be chatting with all kind of candidates, 21 minutes. We're going to give them each 21 minutes. I'm glad you brought up the opioid. It's a crisis. We've been in a crisis for some time now. With your background, what do you think you could bring to Baton Rouge? Because we all know that locally, if you bring an opioid crisis, I'm not saying it falls on deaf ears, but there's really no leverage locally to get a whole lot done until you get to the state level. What would you bring to Baton Rouge to where they would get it and we would see some results?
Right. So as you know, I work at Stark Community Health Center. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and this is what we see day in and day out, is these mental health crises. In 2022 alone, we had a 103% increase in opioid deaths in Terrebonne Parish. This is statistics coming from the coroner. And so it's touching each and every one of us in one way or another. I'll share with you, Martin, my mother died of a heroin overdose. And so it touches me as well. And so I can be empathetic with people and understand where they're coming from. The problem is multifaceted. It's not just one thing or another. It's the fact that we have a lack of mental health resources across the state of Louisiana. The first thing in budget cuts, it seems to be mental health and resources for children. And so we need people to go and sit at the table in these budget debates and say, you know what, there might be a better and more effective way that we can utilize the monies that we're giving. I work at a FQHC, which is a federally qualified health center, and it's actually the model that should be used across the nation because it's more cost effective in providing services to more individuals. Another thing that happens quite regularly is because we don't have resources for those with severe to profound mental illnesses like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, these real severe mental illnesses, they ended up getting in the criminal justice system. And so I've met so many people at the clinic, and I've done assessments on people who, their son or daughter may have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and they get themselves in trouble. They go to jail. They don't get what they need in jail, and then they get out on the street, and they don't get medicated, and then they're right back, and it's a revolving door. And so that's the population that we really need to hone in on, because our clinic-based services work well for our mild to moderate symptoms and people with those mental illnesses. But when it gets to those severe people, and people tell you, like, my son or daughter, they never get what they truly need. And I see this all the time at the clinic. And so as far as being able to provide a model, I think that's really what we need to focus on. And so I look forward to having those conversations in Baton Rouge to see where we can find a cost-effective way to provide services for people that are in distress. Not only that, we have a housing crisis. That also brings people's psychological state down. People become more depressed because they don't have housing. So it's just so many different levels. And like I said earlier, it's a multifaceted. And so we really need to sit down and look at all the pieces, because as a social worker, we look at person and environment. You can't just fix one piece of the puzzle without fixing the entire puzzle. And so that's really what we need to look at in Terrebonne Parish, is how can we look at the entire puzzle and see where we can fix things so that it can be whole again.
One of the pieces of that environment now, hate to say it, is insurance, because people, I'm sure you're probably seeing a lot of people who don't know how they're going to make their mortgage now because the insurance is bigger than the mortgage, and it's got people in a panic. You're going to have a big voice in Baton Rouge. What do you plan to bring to Baton Rouge on that accord?
Well, first and foremost, it's relationships, and so I've already formed a relationship with our new insurance commissioner, Tim Temple, and so we've started those conversations, and I've talked to him about the struggles that people are having here in Terrebonne Parish, and I think it's going to be work. We're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to look at other states. We're going to see what works in other states and other areas. Why does it work in Florida and Texas and it doesn't work in Louisiana? It's because we have a lot of issues here in Louisiana. Tort reform is number one. I know you and I have had this conversation before, but we've got to get rid of these frivolous lawsuits if we're going to move Louisiana in a better direction. Why don't new insurance companies want to invest? It's because they're scared of being sued. And so until we deal with tort reform, nothing in nothing in the state of Louisiana is going to move forward. That's number one. We also need to create a better business environment in the state of Louisiana. We need to lower the corporate income tax level. We also need to eliminate or lower the personal tax responsibility for individuals, because we pay some of the highest taxes in the nation, and people just don't want to invest here anymore. And so we've got a lot of work to do, and we absolutely need good people to be in Baton Rouge to be able to advocate for us.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when I come back, I want to dive into the seafood industry. And I learned something new in every interview. Last interview I did with you, I didn't realize your close ties in the seafood industry. So let's do this. We'll take a short break. We'll come right back with our final segment with state rep candidate. She's also the council chair here in Terrebonne Parish, Jessica Domangue. We'll be right back. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, Know your rights. South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer. Attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford. Built Ford Tough. Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. All right, welcome back. We are still with Ms. Jessica Domangue. She is council chair here in Terrebonne Parish and also a candidate in District 53 state rep. Okay, final segment, Jessica. I want to talk about the seafood industry. You know, in your district, of course, very, very big. Mm-hmm. And I still go to restaurants, and it's a habit now. I go, where are your shrimp from? Mm-hmm. Where's your seafood from? I don't know if everybody does that, but they should. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of that when you walk. And what are your thoughts on that? And what can you do to help the plight of those that make their living in that industry?
Yeah, and we're all empathetic to our local fishermen. They've had such a difficult time. You know, the low price of shrimp and the high cost of fuel has made it almost impossible for people to have a living fishing and doing those things. So we absolutely need people to go to Baton Rouge and to advocate for them. In 2019, it's very interesting as I'm learning more about this. In 2019, there were laws passed in the legislature that stated that every restaurant has to say where their seafood is from. All right, it has to be printed. Now we know that does not happen everywhere. We're talking grocery stores, anywhere that sells seafood. Do you know, Martin, that although these laws were passed in 2019, there hasn't been one fine implemented since 2019? We're talking 2023.
Right.
So we have the laws. Why aren't we implementing the laws, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's where we need to start. We need to start with that conversation. Why aren't we implementing the laws that we have to pass? As far as imports and as far as trade, those are all guided by the federal government, right? That's in Washington. And we have a really good relationship with our local, with our federal delegation. Mm-hmm. So if I have to go to Washington to advocate for our seafood industry, I will. But we also need to remember that on a state level, there's so many things that we could do, but when the rest of it is all on a federal level.
I do know that when the federal elected officials, they want to make a decision, they call the reps.
Exactly.
They call the senators. So
right.
Jessica, what are you hearing? You know. So
absolutely.
So let's do this with about 4.5 minutes left. Legacy lawsuits.
Yes.
Don't care which side anybody's on in Terrebonne Parish. Naturally, some people are going to be on one side, some on the other side. But if you're fortunate enough to win this position, where would you be on the side of legacy lawsuits?
I would be on the side of Terrebonne Parish, and that is completely against legacy lawsuits. And legacy lawsuits, we talked about some reasons why the state of Louisiana is behind every other state is because of legacy lawsuits. There's no room for legacy lawsuits, and we have got to work to eliminate these legacy lawsuits, because the more they continue, the less we're going to have business investment in our areas. And so there's not a place for it. And I can tell you, Martin, I have never been a proponent for legacy lawsuit. I have never been to secret meetings about legacy lawsuits. I have stayed as far away from the legacy lawsuits as I possibly can, because I think it's not good for Terrebonne Parish, and I think that people really need to do their research before they vote in this election, because it is so important that we have the right people that's on the right side of Terrebonne Parish.
All right, let me ask you this, because you, as a council chair, mm-hmm. y'all deal with a $248 million budget.
Yes.
Every year in Terrebonne Parish. So I guess it's good practice for somebody to be on the council. Both you and Dirk Guidry are on the council. Y'all both deal with that same budget, but the budget gets much bigger as you go to the state of Louisiana. So just talk a little bit about what would make you qualified to handle those budgets, work within, you don't control all of them. The governor has the veto power too, but what would make you qualified to handle that big of a budget?
Well, we have handled a big budget here in Terrebonne Parish, and we've been very fiscally responsible. And I am fiscally responsible. I'll continue to be fiscally responsible. Part of being a conservative is being fiscally responsible. So we're going to make sure that we spend wisely. And I know for a fact that we're going to have to cut some things, and we're going to have to make some difficult decisions as far as the state of Louisiana. There may be some decisions made that not everybody likes. But I will be sure to be transparent about every decision that is made. And everyone who knows me and everyone who works with me knows that transparency is number one. People always say, Jessica, why are you the only one that says anything about anything? And it's because I think transparency is so important. So I will continue that message, and I will continue to be open and honest with people. And I'll have my door open too. If anything happens as far as the state, they can call me, but there are going to be some difficult decisions that are made as far as our budget. And so I feel as though you need to make sure you're trusting who's going to go to Baton Rouge for you.
What about a minute left, and I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Anything said on the campaign trail that you would like the people to know are correct?
Well, now,
we would need a whole show, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Moving forward, there will not be any mudslinging from the Jessica Domangue campaign. I know there's been mudslinging in other areas, but it won't be coming from me. I always try to be open and honest with people. If there's something you hear or something that's said, I encourage you to call me. That way we can set the record straight, because that's the best way to really kind of open that dialogue rather than just hearing word on the street. Call me. The only reason I'm doing this and the only reason I'm running for this office is because I want to make Terrebonne Parish and the state of Louisiana a better place for my children and a better place for our children. I'm not getting any benefits from this whatsoever. This is just because I want what's better and what's best for our parish.
All right. Jessica, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. Once again, Jessica Domangue, candidate for state rep, District 53.